All right, guys, this Hangout on air is live. Happy Friday, everyone. Today is June 12th, Friday, June 12th. You're hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. As always, you can chat along with us, and I know a lot of you are over there at hashtag CMGR Hangout. If you love what you're seeing today, please head over to our website at mycmgr.com. Click on participate. We just saw a couple pings this week. People with great ideas, people who want to join us and hang out on Friday. So, guys, this is your show. This is your community. We just show up and help facilitate. So, all right, this week we decided to do an Ask Me Anything style, but we're calling it an AUA, which is Ask Us Anything. And that's going to be the format. So you will tweet us at the hashtag CMGR Hangout. Please include the Twitter handle mycmgr. We have that way it'll show up pretty easily for us and won't get lost in the general chatter. We'll bring your tweet up and then we'll answer it. And so just nothing too dirty. And with that, I'll let everybody introduce themselves, starting with Sherry.
Hey everyone, I'm Sherry Rohde and I co-produce CMGR Hangout here with Brew and Dom, as well as manage community for a company called Magento.
So hi everyone, my name is Lotta Igartua. I am a community manager for Hootsuite and I work in our North American team based out of Vancouver.
Hey everybody, I am Dom, coming to you from the loudest place possible, so I'm sorry. Starbucks here in Austin, Texas. I am a co-producer here with Sherry and Brew, as well as community manager for the Change Revolutions.
Hey, I'm David Dewald, the community manager for Bit9 and Carbon Black.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Brew, director of Awesome with Be the Change Revolutions, co-producer here with Sherry and Dom at my CMGR and CMGR Hangouts. All right, so we don't have any questions just yet, although one did pop in. We'll get that first. So I'm just going to kick things off, and I really want to ask you guys, like, what got you interested in community management in the first place?
The sheer amount of money you make when you're a community manager, that was really it. It was nothing but dollars and cents.
I don't know about that. When I was starting, there wasn't a lot of money in it. So for me, what got me started? It was an accident. I didn't mean to become a community manager. You know, as a lot of people know, I got my start in gaming. And the reason I got my start in gaming is because there was a game coming out that I thought was pretty cool, and I thought, well, I'll just build a website around it. Of course, that was in 1998. So I turned into one over time, you know, just running that site and getting people to join and help out and help build the community. Yeah, Dom, they had internet in 1998. So that was it. I kind of grew into the role. It's funny, is like the role kind of grew with me, so to speak. I mean, it's a lot different today than what it was 15 years ago.
I think for me, it's all about building relationships, and I kind of ended up going down the community management route myself as well. Perhaps not specifically intending to do it. So I come from quite a wide marketing background with PR and in-house and working for a brand in-house and working from agency experience as well. So quite wide when it comes to events, etc., and so on. So when I came across this amazing job here when I moved to Vancouver, I just thought it would be a really great fit. And just coming back to that, I think it's all about building relationships, and I just love speaking to people all around the world and just seeing all these connections happen.
So I actually have been doing kind of community-related things for a long time, longer than I knew that community was actually a job. But the way that I got into community, which I've shared a few times, but I'll share again, is I became a part of the Magento community by asking questions and getting involved on the forums, and then as a result, I was asked to be a forum moderator, and from there, I became friends with the community manager at the time, and she just really kind of mentored me into the industry and taught me a lot about community and what it was, and I transitioned through a few different community roles there that way, and now I'm actually back at the company where I learned about community, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. And for me, I think, I don't know, I think really, I think it was my community manager that got me interested in community. I've been hanging out on BBSs when I was a kid, then chat rooms trading pirated software when I was a teenager, and then just hanging out and talking to people on the internet kind of forever. And so I've always been a part of these little online communities, and my community manager, when I was introduced to that early on, just gave me kind of like this wake-up call of like, holy cow, this is like a profession, and it's pretty awesome and amazing. So that's kind of how I got involved. I'm going to bring up a couple questions here. First of all, Patrick, the question he has is, do we all agree that Kinalada has the best accent we've ever had on CMGR Hangout? I think we can all agree on that. Absolutely, Patrick.
That makes me laugh. Thank you. I do actually often get quite a lot of questions about that. So yeah, it's just like a wide mix of everything.
You have an accent? I didn't notice.
It's a great accent. All right, so then on to a serious topic for a second. James Arthur asks us, hey, first of all, thanks for joining us this Friday. And James asks, when is a community ready to be a community? So who'd like to take that?
That's a tough one. Like, when is a community ready to be a community? I guess because when it is. It's like, when's the ocean ready to be an ocean? I mean, there's a community out there somewhere for whatever you're doing. You can either build another one like it or go find that one. You know, I don't know how to answer that one. It's so vague. If you mean a new community that maybe you developed, it's when, I don't know, when you have when people are creating content and you're not doing all the heavy lifting. I guess that's when it's ready to be a community, when you're ready to set it free.
I think that was a good answer to that question, because it's yeah, a community is there already, right? I'm kind of more thinking about it in a way of when it's becoming maybe like an organized community, and like I guess a community doesn't necessarily have to have a leader, but if there is a more of a one spot where people meet, I mean, it could be both online and offline. If it's more organized, it could be, yeah, one spot where they come together. So maybe that's when it's being a more formalized community.
Right, like maybe when they already have a home or they've made a home of their own. And I also think, there's just certain traits about a community, that traditionally, I always like to look at community from a traditional sense is it used to be people living together. Then with the internet, it got a little wider, but it's still like it's all about people being together, hanging out, answering each other's questions, helping each other out. So, excuse me. So we have another question for the panel. Luis, thank you for hanging out with us. Question: what's the best platform to start a community? This is a pretty loaded question, but let's see what your opinions are, panel, on the different platforms.
I can try to take this, and maybe it's quieter. I don't know. Patrick said that it sounded like I was on the Mad Max set, and while Austin can get pretty desert hot, it's not that bad. But I think the answer to this question is yes. Any platform is good to start a community, depending on what your community is. For me, there isn't really a right answer there. There's definitely some communities that are built and lean more towards a specific one, whether it be Facebook or a forum or Twitter or something like that. But I think that really what it is, you just have to pay attention to what your community actually, where they already talking, and build off of that and try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, that was a good, solid question. I think you can use whatever platform you can safely get up and running by yourself. if that's the way you have to do it. Whatever you can do. It could be WordPress and you build it around BuddyPress as an add-on, or it could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, it could be, I think MySpace is still around in some form. I mean, something like that. Anything.
There's like
whatever you need.
millions of people on MySpace. The stats are ridiculous.
Because Justin Timberlake brought it back.
Also, did you notice they brought back the MySpace top 8, but instead of your top 8 friends, it's like the top 8 links that week or whatnot? I thought that was interesting when it showed up in my spam folder somewhere.
MySpace, the community that just won't die.
But yeah, I think we've done Hangouts on this before too, and we've even had on like Ben Martin and others who help people actually evaluate what platform they should be on. And it depends on a lot of things. It depends on where the people in your community already are. It depends on your budget. It depends on what type of environment you're trying to build. So there's not really a one-size-fits-all answer to the question. But if you start asking yourself those questions, then it helps to start narrowing down your options and figuring out where you should be.
And so Jen, hey Jen, how are you? Asks, do we all agree that Lada has the best background of anyone? And I don't know. I mean, my brick wall is pretty famous, but I think Lada definitely has a pretty awesome back wall.
Thank you, guys. So much flatter here today. I think that you all have like amazing backgrounds, and I think that's the thing. Like everyone has different experiences, and that's how we all come together and give the best we can.
I think she actually meant the giant owl behind you.
Oh, okay. I read too much into that. So, background-wise, I don't know how well you do see it, but it's actually half an owl. So it's half an owl with a mirror going this way. So I'm kind of sitting in the corner, and basically half an owl becomes 2 owls. So we have some pretty amazing meeting rooms here in our offices. So lots of mural action going on the walls. Some of them are external, and some of them are made by some of our team members. Yeah, very creative.
That's awesome.
I had no idea that was a mirror. Like, this entire time, you've been on a couple of panels, and I for sure always thought that there was just somebody behind you, and you were on a Hangout. No, it's a mirror. My mind is blown right now.
And you were like, boy, and they have like the same haircut and everything. It's crazy.
They're totally mocking her, doing every single one of her motions. What is this?
Hey, and I wanted to say hi real quick to Chris. Chris, thanks for joining us for this AMA. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Absolutely, loud and clear.
Excellent.
All right, so let me bring up our next question. So this is a question from Jen. Who's keeping track of the awesome count? Is it or is it House of Brew just winning by default? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. For those of you,
I said it 15 times, but you couldn't hear it over people making coffee, so you could just count me at 15.
So for those of you who may not know or new to the community, there's a little bit of a joke each week. Jen is our awesome counter. She keeps track of which people say awesome and how many times they say awesome. And sometimes we're surprised at how many times the word awesome is actually used. So Patrick says, this is actually a fun question for an AMA. What the hell do you kids do for fun outside of having online chat parties? So when we're not here chatting for fun, what are we doing for fun? Go.
Oh, I collect video games. I have hundreds upon hundreds of them. So I have everything from the Atari 26 through to the modern generation games. Although I'm focusing more on the old Atari these days.
I have to say I'm a huge comic book nerd. I actually have one in the office. It's randomly here. So huge on that. I love collecting those, and then really when it comes down to it, to be quite honest, most of the time when it's not on social, it's with family. I mean, family first, and I got a 2-year-old, so he keeps me quite busy. And he has me running around. He's very good for keeping me in shape, considering I don't have time to go to a gym because of the fact that I have to, run after him.
I like to karaoke when I'm not doing, not sitting behind this desk. And I also love Netflix. I'm just gonna say it, Netflix and Hulu Plus. I spend a ridiculous amount of time consuming content and just letting my brain just take it all in. So.
And Brew's karaoke, by the way, is epic. So if you all have ever had the chance to go karaoke with Brew, do it.
I would love to do that. I do secretly love karaoke, but I don't do it as often as I should, I think. But yeah, I need some more friends who actually like to do it without having too many drinks before. What I like to do outside of work is trying to become a true Vancouverite. I really do like the outdoors. So now when summer is here and the sun is out, I really enjoy going out on long, amazing walks. I did not use that word. I said amazing instead. Yeah, doing that, just hanging out on the beach is a good option. When the snow is here, snowboarding in the local mountains is something I really like doing. And then I'm a big foodie. I love going out eating, and like going out for a good drink as well.
You just made me, I realized I didn't point it out, but the other thing that you made clear, because you said foodie and drink, and the other big thing I like to do, especially in the summer, is the beer festivals and just go out, and a lot of them have really good food. I just got back from one in April that is up at it's called Tap at Hunter Mountain, and it has food and drink covered in the price, so it's double the fun. So whether you like drinking or not, you can just get the DD ticket, and it's perfect for like $15. It's like unlimited food, which you can't beat.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, talking about food, I like going to food trucks here in Austin. That's a really popular thing to do. At all hours, whether I'm getting a taco for lunch or, Tuesday at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting a bunch of tiki masala and taking an Uber home. I also like to run a lot. Well, I say that I like to run, but I have to run because everybody in Austin is so active. I don't want to be like the one ugly dude here that's just super unfit. So that's become a hobby now.
I got you covered, Dom. I don't exercise. I'm ugly. You're good.
And
you're beautiful just the way you are.
We have another person join us for the. Oh shoot, she just left. Well, Margot, if you're there, come back. We were right about to introduce you and say hi. All right. Let's see. So I will jump us into the next question, which is here we go. So question: a community needs a leader. So I think our answers are a little split on this. I mean, I think if a community doesn't have a leader, it sort of does, even if they're unnamed. But I haven't really seen a whole lot of communities where at least someone's natural leadership, kind of doesn't shine through, even if they're not named as a leader. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you need a benevolent dictatorship. The buck's got to stop somewhere. Somebody's got to toe the line. Someone's got to say this is not acceptable. And so there always has to be a leader. But they should be a nice leader, not a bad leader.
Could you take it, I mean, sure, a leader, but could you call it a manager, a community manager? Just not to put that big crown on somebody's head.
Well,
Just
yeah.
thinking out loud.
I've been called a lot over the years. Some nice, some not. But job titles have ranged from community liaison to, webmaster was what we called it back in the 90s and stuff like that. So, the title's going to change as the role changes. Nowadays community manager is, a little bit wrapped up in social media sometimes, and so there's still not a true clear title of what a community manager is. I mean, everybody's starting to get a good feel for it though. But ultimately somebody's got to, hold the gavel and make the decisions and be the judge and jury and executioner if needed. So whatever that is, I think the community needs one.
All right, let's jump us into another question. And Toby, thanks for hanging out with us. Toby asks, how do you measure success in meeting member demand? So, boy, this could almost be an entire topic here, but who's got a nice short answer?
I think similar to a platform, you have to look at kind of your specific community, like what is your company trying to achieve and why do you have that community in place? Because if you don't know those goals that you're working towards, it's going to be absolutely impossible to measure it. If you do know them, then you can figure out metrics that matter for that goal and report on them and then show that, hey, like we are creating this value for the company with this community based on meeting XYZ that leads to our goal as a company.
Yeah, and I was actually, I was at a social media strategy summit yesterday, and I was talking about data and the value of data, and the big point, kind of what Sherry said, which is this fact that if you go in with a purpose, you can now define metrics and what you need to discover. The example that I actually used was, I don't know, I know a lot of people out there will know Chris McEwen, who's got a fantastic, amazing company. He makes high-end yo-yos, which is just so cool. And he's focused his community strategy as a whole on building community and building loyalty and really, user-generated content and just making feel like people are a part of this great thing together. And that approach, his goal was to be this, a lifestyle leader in the yo-yo industry on social media, and he's done it. I mean, he's got double the social media influence of all his competition. And the other day, I could tell you he was telling me how he did $10,000 of sales in 25-30 minutes. And that's all. All this stuff came because of social. This was a social push that got it. So I think community is amazingly powerful. And again, he knows he accomplished his goals, but he knew what he had to accomplish. That's the way he was able to say, I was successful. If he didn't set the goals in the first place, how could he say he was successful? He could just say, oh, we did something good. But success needs to be, based off something.
Awesome. And so in the true style of EMA, we also have to bring in the fun questions, right? So if Sherry, Brew, and Dom were falling from a plane, who would Iron Man save and why? So who's going to take that one?
I will take this question. Thank you very much. It would be really easy. Iron Man would save Brew and Sherry because I am Iron Man, and I would save both of them. Boom. Next.
Okay, fair enough. We'll move on to the next question. Anyone else getting a lot of background or feedback noise? That's just when Dom talks. He's in a food truck right now. So after that is Toby.
Wait, you guys want feedback noise? A motorcycle just started up. Is this good? Is this good for everybody? Is this what people are looking for?
So Toby asks, are you measuring who provides answers, employees versus customers? Who's got a good one for that?
Most of the platforms I know aren't good enough to tell the difference, and so unless you're physically or manually doing it, no. And I don't think you. It depends on. If it's a small community with only a few questions and answers, it'd be easy to do. But in a larger community, like I said, I don't know of a platform that can tell who is answering, whether it's an employee or non-employee.
So we don't measure it, but we could if we wanted to. We use Lithium, and our employees are assigned to an employee role, and because of that, we could filter them out and actually tell employee posts versus community posts, or moderator posts versus community posts. So it is something that we could measure, but it's not currently something that we do.
Oh, right. I could say that, yeah, most platforms will do that. You can divide them up. I was thinking within the Jive platform, they actually have a questions and answers kind of a utility built into it, and that's pretty not smart. So it can't tell. It can only say that this person gave a correct answer, depending on whether it was marked as correct or not.
I was going to say we don't currently measure it in like hard metrics, but obviously that's something that we are that we're encouraging everyone to do, right? So employee engagement is very hot at the moment, and that's something that's bigger Hootsuite that we're talking about, just how employers can be engaging on social or just through their own networks. And then obviously we have our amazing ambassador program where we can ask for help, and we have amazing people around the world who are helping us with things as well.
All right, another question for us. Let's talk Snapchat. Francis says, do you have concerns on what we will need to do as community managers to manage this kind of social network?
Can you actually manage Snapchat? I don't think that's possible.
Well, I don't know about managing the community, but I definitely think, just talking from a brand perspective, it's definitely an engagement platform, right? One-to-one, one-to-many.
So one thing I have noticed, which I didn't notice before because I hadn't lived in a major city before, but Snapchat is actually based here in LA, and there is actually an LA story, and that one's actually kind of fun to flip through sometimes because if you're in LA, you can post to that story. So it's just a bunch of random people in LA's stories.
Yeah, they have those in like some college campuses too, which I think is pretty big. I mean, when I look at it, I don't necessarily. I look at it as, like Bruce said, an engagement opportunity. I look at it as like one of the purest forms of storytelling that you can have as a brand. I absolutely love Snapchat, and brands that do it well, I think, have a giant opportunity there. But I think that what you can do with Snapchat is almost, God, it's just so hard because while you do know some people that open it and you can see some stats on it, it's really hard to have that type of communication, I think, like in what we think of community, Yeah,
it becomes almost an overwhelming full-time job in order to build community right on that platform, I think, because it's almost like saying, hey, can I build community via SMS or like rich MMS or something like that, because I had done some experimenting with it, and it literally is about like you're getting other people's snaps, right, as the brand, and so you can reply to them and let them know you're seeing their snaps. You can and it's a lot of very quick one-to-one communication all the time. Also being careful not to cross any lines. Also not being able to unsee half the stuff you get sent through Snapchat, and then because of that engagement, I think you have much more success about being able to do more of the broadcast snaps, and that's, I think, another great advantage, right? Is on Twitter, if I tweet, only the newbies think I'm tweeting just to them, right? But on Snapchat, there's certain ways, depending on how you broadcast Snap, you could make it feel like, I think I'm the only one receiving this, right? Versus the large, collection of everyone in my list.
I would add too, I think with Snapchat, what's interesting, I know Dom mentioned universities, and when it comes down to it, Snapchat, there's potential there, but you also have to have the right storytellers to do it, because if you don't have a story to tell, if you don't have the content to share, Snapchat's going to be useless. In that particular space, I think much almost like I think in the university and nonprofit landscape, I think about it in the same way as you think of Instagram. You're trying to show an experience. You can do that with Snapchat, but I think the amount of time you have to put into it on a Snapchat versus an Instagram, huge difference there. Not to say it's not work to put together a great Instagram. I'm not saying that by any means, but I think with Snapchat, literally I've seen people storyboard out what they're doing with their story for Snapchat. Whereas with Instagram, I don't think people are going necessarily to that kind of level. So I think that's an interesting approach. I'm glad Dom mentioned higher ed, because I think that is a good space, where that should be exploring it more, and if they've got the team, and that's the challenge I think in higher ed, is that do you have the team to do that and the resources, which in higher ed I will say a lot of them do not, maybe the majority.
The thing that I really like about it too is that the live event feature of it. I watch, I go on Snapchat, I look at the stories, and they have stories for like the NBA finals or the NHL finals, and you have a bunch of people that are at different areas of the arena, and they submit their story to be part of there's a specific person there that's actually looking at all that content and, you know, suggesting it. And, you know, like after the Warriors, you know, just won the last game, I watched the full thing and I knew it was going to happen, but it was fun seeing it from a lot of different people's perspective. And I think that you know, that's what really where there's a lot of storytelling in there, especially around the events, because you want to see what's going on. You want to know what, like,
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to bring in another question. Dom, I think you're just having a little connection problems on your end. Sarah Lang asks, what's the coolest, most surprising thing that's happened in each of your communities? So let's talk cool or surprise. Sorry, Sarah, our communities are boring. There's been no cool things or surprises. Oh, here.
Too many things to choose between. I have to have a think.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Coolest and surprising are just a little bit subjective. We did have 2 community managers get married, but that was a while ago. That was like probably 4 or 5 years ago. But they met through the community.
We actually, sorry for cutting in, we actually had that too, and that's what came to my mind. I wasn't sure if I should have mentioned it because people may not necessarily want to be mentioned by name, but it happened for us as well. So there was a love story of 2 people who met through our community.
I have to say, I think I don't have love stories or anything to share, but I think the biggest thing that has excited me, and it's rather simple, so I don't know if it's really exciting or super cool, but with YI Social, what's happened is I've had people who are guests on YI Social get excited about meeting other guests on YI Social, and suddenly what I've seen from the podcast is the podcast started uniting and introducing people to one another because I focused it on, you know, telling people stories, and I'm not trying to do a plug for the show by any means. I just think it's really cool to see the people, you know, connect with one another, and it's happening on, you know, obviously on Twitter. And then the really cool thing was people started to come together and really show support, to the point that they basically forced my hand in making an ambassador program to support the podcast, because they just came out and said, "Hey, I'd love to hear when your next one's coming out, so I can, you know, talk about it." And for me, as a kind of, I guess, as the brand, that was just that was cool to me. I mean, that was you know, one of the most awesome things I've ever seen happen on social for myself personally. So have to mention that.
I was going to say that for me, some of the most surprising things is when you run a community that's large enough and you run it for long enough, somebody in your community is going to pass away or something's going to happen that is distressing, and it's always amazing how the community tends to come together for those kinds of things, and they'll help out where they can in whatever way they can. And I love to see that in the community. I mean, it's not a happy event necessarily, but it's amazing the things that people will do to help other people.
Yeah, that's probably one of the true kind of signs that you have a great and healthy community, right? When disaster strikes, the community you know, pulls together to help out. That's awesome.
I like that. That's so nice, and it's all about caring for each other, right? That's when you're building up your communities. On a more happy note, one of our huge milestones was that we reached 1,000 ambassadors. So basically, a network of users all around the globe, and I love seeing the connections and how people are connecting from, you know, from Australia to the UK to everywhere really, and just seeing how people are becoming friends and how they're collaborating and doing things together.
All right, another question to move us along in our AMA. Sarah Lang. Oh wait, that's the one we just answered, wasn't it? Okay, next. Laura asks, what can community managers learn from BuzzFeed, the ultimate online community? So what do you guys think? BuzzFeed.
If you throw enough feet against the wall, some of it'll stick.
Clickbait and kittens.
So we can learn clickbait works from BuzzFeed?
I said clickbait and kittens.
Oh, clickbait and kittens.
And gifts. You forgot the gifts.
Yes, must have the gifts.
How in the hell could I have forgotten the gifts?
Coming
hell
from the
Adobo was I
person who
thinking?
wanted to do an entire panel on gifts.
Yeah,
and
how did you forget? I'm actually kind of disappointed right now that you forgot gifts.
Well, hey, guys, let's not pile on now.
It's
All right, here's a
all the
question.
noise.
Here's an ask in AUA, and I'm going to ask you anything, the community. See what I did there? Do you think we should do an entire panel on gifts sometimes? Would you guys want to be a part of that? Let me ask that to the full-on CMGR community.
Oh wow, I have someone on my team, Matt. He absolutely loves gifts. He has a library, and yeah, he'll be able to talk about that for hours and hours. Do it.
Cool. He's on the panel.
So maybe we will do a GIF panel, or somebody might call it a GIF panel, but we'll see. So I think
They can call it a GIF panel, but it won't be on our panel.
It just makes me think peanut butter.
Yeah, it's the graphics exchange format.
Choose Jeff.
So I, the one thing that I just want to say about BuzzFeed is that we can definitely joke about, like the clickbait and the gifs and the kittens and everything else. But I mean, if you do pay attention, they're definitely leading. I think leading the space in how content could be distributed, right? As far as they were one of the first to really start hitting video, like entertaining video, hard on Facebook. Something I just recently saw is that they're now putting subtitles, like they're literally putting their own fake subtitles in their online video content, because we all know that when you watch video on Facebook, there's no sound until you click the sound, right? So in order to capture someone's attention quicker, maybe visually you're not, but there's funny dialogue. How do you do that? And so I think they get paid to make content go viral or to make it spread, and so I think it's smart to just watch them and really see all of the new stuff that they're doing.
And I think as well, I mean, everybody gives BuzzFeed a bad rap because they, like we say, clickbait and gifs, all that kind of stuff. But like they produce a lot of really, really good long form content. Around the political season, they have been ever since, I think it was Obama's campaign in 2008 was when they really started, and then they hit it hard in 2012. They have a lot of some very, very in-depth political articles too. Like BuzzFeed is definitely a community that is very, they're known specifically for one thing, but they are very well-rounded, and they have quality stuff on their website, which is the reason that, they do as well as they do. So, I think when it comes to that, you could be known as something. I mean, if you want to actually try to take a lesson from it, like you can be known as one specific thing, but if you figure out a way to sort of diversify and to make sure you're producing quality stuff, you'll have 10% of the internet that's going to be super loud and make fun of you for one thing, but you could be doing other really good stuff on the backside and provide a lot of value.
All right, I'm going to move us along to Matt. We got a double AMA for Matt, 2 questions in a row. So first question for you guys is, what's one tactic you found super effective for ramping up engagement in your community and blow shit up?
By the way, this is the Matt that I mentioned earlier about the gifts.
Awesome. So guys, what's
So we
tactic?
shouldn't say gifts because he already knows that one, is what you're saying.
So a tactic you found effective for ramping up engagement in your community.
Controversy. Take an extreme stance on whatever subject you want. You will definitely get blown up.
And I would go ahead and I would suggest take advantage of, and if you have the option of using a system, a CRM to really build those relationships and see who your influencers are, get them together, get them talking, create a community amongst them. And I take this a step further and say, okay, they're tweeting you, they're talking to you, that's great. Get them talking into maybe a Facebook group where now they're getting to know each other. And now when you've got content going out, you've got something really cool coming up, you can tell them in advance. And then they're all sharing it together. And you're going to amplify like crazy. I can vouch for it because I wasn't doing this originally. And after I started doing it, I suddenly went from like 1 million impressions per month to 4 million social impressions per month, and I'm on pace for 9 million social impressions per month for YS Social right now. So the amplification of ambassadors, I can't speak enough to it. The method works, and if you build a great community and you see the start of it, run with it. Just run with it.
I say +1 for that one because advocacy is very close to my heart. So definitely, if you have friends, your so-called friends, or those people who love your brand, yeah, utilizing their natural love for what you do, that's super powerful. And also, once again, the whole employee advocacy aspects of things is quite a good one as well, to think about the people that work in your environment, and they are hopefully your best advocates as well.
And here's an idea, Matt. Be social. Talk about shit that's not your product or service. Talk about what your community actually is into, what they like. I mean, I've found that that's a great way to build up engagement. Get people talking about what they like to talk about, which isn't necessarily always your product or service.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I think that, I mean, if you want to reverse engineer some sort of a ambassador program, you have to be the biggest ambassador for all of your ambassadors. You know, like if you're the one that's actually sharing all of their stuff using your channel to pump theirs out, they are going to be, I'm just going to make up a percentage. They're going to be 174% more likely to share your content. So, you know, you do that, you know, you can really sort of attack it the opposite way, share their stuff so that they share yours. They'll do it for sure.
And because I promised some double Matt action here, we're going to take Matt's second question, which is, what is your most valuable measurement of community growth?
Define growth. I mean, if you mean members, then member count. I mean, it depends on what you mean by growth. Sorry.
No,
I think
fair.
yes, so if we're looking into how to grow your members, or maybe it's like your social reach or something like that, yeah, counting the actual numbers, like the actual metrics is important. But what I really do like is to see the longer story, like the qualitative stories of it, to actually hear what people are saying. I just love getting these tweets when people are saying that or when our ambassadors are saying that they love the program. They love what they have achieved through it and how it has helped them in their personal development. Like those kind of stories just, yeah, they just make all the metrics fade away.
I think also from just a metric standpoint, you know, I think that it's one thing, not only is, you know, your members or your fans or your followers, like that, those numbers are certainly an indicator of like how large your community is growing online in either social or, you know, members to your bulletin board or whatever, right? But if there's a way to measure the reach those members have, I think that's also equally as important to keep an eye on from an analytics standpoint. Is like how much can my community amplify things that I need to say.
One thing you can also look at, if you're working with a customer community, you can look at like what percentage of my customers are actually becoming part of my community. But if you're not, if it's harder to measure because you're not tracking like specific customers or anything, then you can look at like what percentage of my overall website traffic is making it to the community traffic, and what percentage of the community traffic then is converting to members. And that just gives you an idea kind of where you are in relation to where you could be with the current overall audience that's coming in.
And I think if you're tracking this, one thing I like to do, and I think it works really well, especially with Twitter, is if you create a list of your kind of active and most engaging tweeters, so to speak, and then you use a tool like Community or something like that, or one that shows how active, what the active level is, you can see in a more month-by-month basis, you know, what is this active level from this community? Am I seeing growth in that from these unique individuals? And who are the returning visitors? And I think the value of an increase of returning visitors, and we're not talking a website, but we're talking social traffic, you could take advantage of that and then make sure you really again, elevate them, kind of like we go back to earlier, but have those conversations with them and show you really do care. And that's going to go a long way, and you're going to continue to grow because of that. So looking at those metrics and building out for that is very valuable.
I'm going to bring in probably my favorite question of the day. From Jen asks, besides the awesome count, of course, what makes a good CMGR hangout? Oh, you know what? I actually thought it was what makes a good CMGR, and I thought, oh, this would be a great. So maybe we'll ask both. That'll be my question, but Jen's will be CMGR hangout. So how about some answer hers first?
I have an answer for the CMGR hangout, and this is going to sound weird, but for me, the best CMGR hangouts are where myself, Brew, and Sherry just.
The irony there.
That was awesome. It's when myself. Dom, you'll have to watch the replay. It was pretty priceless.
Oh my word! Did that seriously just happen?
Yeah.
It cut out at just the right time.
Pretty much give us the old face, and that's it. Yeah.
It was literally the most humble answer you can imagine.
So
what I was saying is that my favorite is when Brew, Sherry, and I just shut up and everybody else talks.
We got that, but it cut out right when you were saying shut up. That's why it was so funny. I actually replied to this on Twitter, but I'll say it here too for anyone who missed my tweet. But I actually would really like to know from everyone else what makes a good CMGR hangout, because we're really just doing this for you guys, and because we get to learn ourselves as well. But honestly, it really does, when we say go click on the participate link and let us know if you want to be on air or what topics you want to talk about, or what you want to learn or whatever, we actually mean that, because it really is just a community effort. And so if we just try to think about the worlds that we're in, we could be missing out on so much good content based on other aspects of the community industry.
Sorry.
I'll just say this. One thing I think you do well, I know we've talked about this before, is the fact that you are listening to the audience and you're finding out what they want. Something like this, you're going to get 1,000,000,001 ideas about what you can do in the future from a topic. So the fact that you're listening is one thing that makes a great community manager hangout, because you know what people want to hear, and you're doing that, and you're doing it well, and you're building it from the community. But two, I think I've got a chance to be on here once or twice before, and it's really been about just the interactions for me, and just the fact that everyone who you bring on is very transparent and right out there, and not afraid to kind of say what they think, and I think it just brings out some really great conversations. So I think when you've got a great flow of conversation, it just, no matter what the topic is, it just makes a great show.
I was just going to add, I think it's great. It's such a good learning opportunity. Taking part and to listen to what's being said for everyone. Also, I just saw a tweet from, I can't remember, where did it go? Went too far down, sorry, in my screen. Anyway, somebody asking to meet up for tweet up or something. So basically, just seeing how people are connecting together. So seeing how other people in your network and in your community are building relationships.
All right, so time for another one. So Elizabeth asks, is BuzzFeed, going back to BuzzFeed, a good example of the communities we want to build, or more of a content creation avalanche? Anybody got an opinion on that?
Well, okay, so content is what keeps your community there, growing. Content is what makes it grow, really. Sure, the other users in the community kind of help with that content. So it's not a bad example, I don't think. It's just that they are like the flood of content. It's they throw as much out there, and when you throw a ton out there, some of it's going to stick, and some of it's not. Not every article that they put gets traction, but the ones that do really get traction. But like I said, if you throw enough food at the wall, some of it's going to stick, and you're going to have a community filled with content that's not good, and a few that are really good. But I don't think that's necessarily bad. So I mean, it's not a bad model to take necessarily. It's just generating all that content would be very time consuming for one or two people in a company.
And I will say they produce just so much. There's just constantly content coming from that, kind of to echo what was just said. And with that in mind, I still focus more on the quality of the content and community, and more on the community talking to one another. And that's always the approach that I have taken with it. I feel as though just quality just will always be better than quantity, and I think they do some fantastic things, like it was said. I mean, if you look at some of their videos, they're hilarious, and if you look at, if you need a good laugh, sometimes there's just something there. Quite frankly, you look at it, but I am, from a community perspective, I don't delve into BuzzFeed so much that I don't also think it's fair for me to completely assess the community. I can only assess on what I see from the content with articles that show up in my Facebook feed that, truthfully, most of the time I say, please don't include in my Facebook feed using the little drop down. So, my view is a little more limited.
I think the one thing to remember, and hopefully this wasn't said before when I wasn't paying attention, because I was looking for other questions. They're a content community, right? So like yes, they have people they pay to write content to get clicks, and yes, they go to brands and develop content, but like anyone can make a BuzzFeed article, right? And so there is a community of people, I'm sure, that are loving writing their BuzzFeed articles and commenting on it, and so there's communities that are happening right there that are like content communities in a way. And so that, to me, I think that's interesting. So, all right, here we go. I'd like to hear more about employee-only communities and how to get people engaged in using them. So who's got some thought around that?
With employee communities, it's going to be around knowledge. It's going to be around knowledge and collaboration. I think that's how you get people in there. Different parts of your company may use the same products, but they may use them in different ways. And sharing that knowledge can help both sides improve their use, kind of a thing. Even if it's your products. But yeah, that's probably it. Is sharing knowledge from department to department, and also collaborating on making your processes better or improving your products, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I did a lot with this before I started with BTC. My primary thing when I was with CET International, it was just managing two different employee-only groups. One about the size 50, one about 450, and like we said, it was sharing knowledge. At the same time, it was sharing. It was sharing offense as well. These are great for morale. It's great for sort of rallying the troops and that sort of thing, getting people on the same page and excited and happy as much as you can, because in those communities, obviously, you all have that same sort of feeling of what you go through on a day-to-day basis. That's, I think, why people love this type of community, because we are all community managers, so we all sort of have that. Yeah, we know how that goes, sort of a thing. So that sort of a sounding board definitely really helps with those.
I think one of the important things when it comes to your employees engaging is just to make sure that they feel empowered. So either if they get training in whatever it would be, so they would say the correct things. We don't want to restrict people, but we just want to provide guidelines, and just to make sure that everyone feels confident in what they're sharing and how they're sharing it, and kind of give maybe some directions about tone of voice, etc. as well, so it goes in line with your brand.
Yeah, and when you're get constant feedback, utilize feedback. How can you improve the way you're delivering information, and also providing them the way to deliver information? Because if you get constant feedback, you can continue to evolve what's happening, and you're actually going to get more involvement, because they'll give it a little bit more word of mouth to talk about, hey, it was really cool with this event, and then after it, we made some adjustments, and people do talk about that. I don't underestimate that power of word of mouth.
probably our last question of the day. James asks, could growth be measured by the number of engagements between community members that aren't initiated by a community manager? Could growth be measured by the number of engagements?
Yeah. So yeah, maybe by the number of engagements. Certainly, I think that a good way to measure the success of a community is the day that the community creates more content than the company does or the community manager does. I think that's a good turning point when suddenly you're not the driving force keeping the community active. The community is suddenly doing it themselves, and you can slowly back off, and the community can kind of grow. Keeping track of that engagement level certainly would be part of that. So I don't think that would be unreasonable. I'm not entirely sure how you would go about measuring it. It's going to depend on the platform, but I think that's a fair way.
Yeah, again, I think I understand that's the challenge there, I think, in maybe some of the tracking of some of those things, but when it comes down to it, when you do see, even if you have 30% of the engagements that were coming from your community and 70% coming from your content, I mean, you couldn't complain. I think there's a huge success story there, but then it also depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, we were talking about that earlier. What do you want to accomplish? Building community is fantastic, but you also want to keep in mind what is your mission and purpose. So keep that in mind and see how that aligns. But I think it's a great point. There are services out there. I think a lot of these are CRMs that are measuring influence and things along those lines, like something like a Zoom or like a startup like that, which is focusing on that kind of advocacy and what your community is saying. But I think it is a little bit more challenging to measure, and you'd have to determine what are the metrics you're looking for, and then kind of knock them into a kind of a data set and analyze from there.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to a close. Sherry, what's our topic for next week? Well, you don't.
Sorry, I had to get back to the screen. We're talking with Ed Giansante from Ireland. He works for Dropbox, but I think we're focusing more on his work with eDublin, which is a travel community there. And we're looking at kind of when communities grow and create competition with each other and possibly even with the original community as the community expands, believe. So yeah, we do still have room on panel, so if you want to join us for that, definitely hit me up, let me know on Twitter, or reach me on email, sherry@mycmgr.com. And be good.
Yeah, and thanks to all of you who helped answer questions, and thanks to you guys on Twitter for asking us questions, so we had something to talk about. Have a great weekend, enjoy it, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.